Buongiorno, signore e signori. We're pleased to present to you War Thunder Update 1.69 Regia Aeronautica, an Italian aviation tree, new tanks, aircraft, locations, and other features. It's all in our favorite game right now. Let's go. This major update is called Regia Aeronautica, the name of the Italian Royal Air Forces. We have added a new Axis nation, Italy. The game now has several completely new lines of Italian military aircraft, and Italian aircraft from the German tech tree have been moved to the new playable nation. Italy's military aviation boasts a rich and fascinating history. Italian aircraft saw action in Europe, Africa, the Mediterranean, and on the Eastern Front. Let's take a look at the most exciting models in the game. The Fiat CR.32 biplanes formed the core of Italy's fighter aircraft during the Spanish Civil War. These aircraft were considerably heavier than the other biplanes of the time, which allowed them to achieve very high speeds when diving, and the large-caliber machine guns fitted on certain CR.32 models easily pulverized opponents in the air. The elegant and speedy Mk.5 fighters was the hallmark of Italian aviation in World War II. Light, mobile, and fast, the aircraft were equipped with German Daimler-Benz engines, already familiar to War Thunder pilots, who have updated the models of all fighters in the Mk.5 202 line and added an experimental prototype with cannon armament. Three-engine bombers became the calling card of Italy's heavy military aviation in the 30s. In addition to the well-known Sparviero SM-79 bombers, which are coming to the new playable nation from the German tech tree, we will also be adding new vehicles such as the Can Z-1007, a brand new three-engine hauler with excellent defensive armament. The Piaggio P.108 will be one of the most unusual aircraft in the game. This powerful but unhurried bomber is presented in several models. Besides bombs, it can also either carry 3 huge torpedoes or the biggest cannon in War Thunder aviation, a 102mm gun along with 50 rounds worth of ammunition stock. The Fiat G.91 represents the jet-powered area in the Italian tech tree. The compact, light, and extremely fast bomber fighter is armed with American rapid-firing Brownings and carries bombs and 38 rockets. And it looks superb too. It is rightly the top fighter in the Italian aviation line. War Thunder Update 1.69 is more about than Italian aircraft. The game is also gaining new tanks and SPGs, many of which are truly unique. One of the finest armored vehicles of World War II was the German Puma. The light and maneuverable recon vehicle with a 50mm cannon will be the first at any capture point or at the opponent's flank in an offensive. The T-55A Soviet medium tank, which continues the tradition of the wonderful 54s, and the menacing Object 268 SPG on the T-10 chassis have been added to rank 5 of the USSR armored vehicle tech tree. The Americans have 2 fantastic new additions: the T-95E1 medium tank, designed to replace the Patton, and the M60A2 Starship main battle tank armed with guided missiles. The British get another jewel in their crown with the Chieftain Mk.5, fitted with a more powerful engine than earlier models. We're adding smoke grenades and shells for ground vehicles in War Thunder. Smoke grenades will allow you to hide your tank from enemy fire when doing repairs on the battlefield or when defending a capture point, while smoke shells will help put up a screen over large distances to conceal the advance of an entire group of tanks. Smoke screens open up a huge number of tactical possibilities. This is a brand new chapter in ground battles. Smoke grenades work on all rank 5 tanks and some tanks from the lower ranks. In time, smoke grenades and the shells will be added to all tanks that historically had them. In Update 1.69, it's not just the Italians who get new aircraft. The PB-4Y2 privateer patrol bomber, based on the B-24 Liberator, will appear in the hangars of the US. German pilots are getting a very special update. The forefather of the legendary Messerschmitt line, the Bf-109A1 Anton, a fighter monoplane with a wooden two-blade propeller. For novice pilots, the Anton will be a reward for their first battles in War Thunder, while experienced veterans will be able to access it as a premium reserve aircraft. Also, we have some great news you may missed. For all pilots in mixed battles, we have ground vehicle damage camera. Bomber pilots now have separate sights for each defensive turret with a display showing the overhead indicator. What's more, we have created 3 new locations for you to enjoy. For ground battles, the new and improved Kuban is now available. Pilots will fight in the skies above scorching Tunisia, an expanded variant of the ground battles location. For naval battles, we present the port of Novorossiysk, a location created based on the ports of the Black Sea coast. These and many more additions are waiting for you in Worth Honor Update 1.69 Regia Aeronautica. Read the full changelog at the link in the description, subscribe to our channel, and keep up with our news on social networks. See you in battle.
Hail and well met, and welcome back to SITREP 02. I'm Arm Bushido for DrySucks AR, and here we are. This is today. I guess today I'm going to be going over. Of course, the big elephant in the room is the brand new and just recently launched update for War Thunder, which is 1.69, which you just saw the intro for. I'm just going to cover the vehicles and give you my thoughts, and I'll be right up front. I don't have the ability yet to play all these vehicles, and the funny thing about all this is I've been playing War Thunder for a long time, but because of work, family, and other duties, I just have not been able to grind everything out to achieve some of the rank 5 stuff, especially in ground battles and also in the air. However, that hasn't stopped me from, giving my thoughts and that type of thing on it. Also, we'll be covering some of the, it's Memorial Day weekend in the U.S., and we'll be covering some of the events going on in other games, and then some other topics I've thought about this week that have come up. This will probably be somewhat War Thunder focused, and maybe just a bit short. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But anyway, so let's just get right onto the thing here and talk about what currently just happened. So War Thunder's update 1.69, of course, added the Italian aviation tree, which we'll go over last here in a second, but also added some vehicles to the lineup of all countries. And let's start out with the M60A2, which is better known as the Starship. It got that nickname because of the funky looking turret, as you can see on the armored vehicle. But really at its core, it's an M60 hull with this 152 millimeter heat round firing missile launching gun barrel. And of course it has this really oddly shaped turret with a very high profile cupola. So I can see that becoming a very, very much a target. So really quickly, we'll go over the armor. Again, it is a M60 at its core. So really, this here is nothing more than an M60. The thing about this tank is it's often referred to as the big brother to the Sheridan. Even though, and again, I apologize, I should go look at my history a little bit. Their development cycles, I think, either the Sheridan came first, because Sheridan served in Vietnam. I'm not sure about the M60A2 where it played a part. Mostly from what I've read, it was assigned to engineering units. Anyway, so we have pretty much a standard, it's an M60 with this funky turret. Of course, you got a good mantlet, and actually the sides, this lower rolled turret here is really good. But then you got some flat sides here that I can see becoming a really huge issue here. And then this thing right here, this is just something to be shot at and then dropping rounds down onto your crew. Speaking of this, let's look at where the crew is placed. Again, pretty much your standard, you got your crew here. And again, this fired heat rounds and high explosive, but, it's probably heat. And then it fires the same missile that the M551 Sheridan fires. And I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce it. It's got Shalak or Shalele or whatever it is, the missile type. This is sometimes also referred to as the modern equivalent of the KV-2, which I get it. This thing is a derper. And then or standoff and fire missiles. But as you can see, there is a huge... If you can pen up under this lower plate and hit those missiles, it's pretty much game over for this thing. But again, I'm very excited to see it. And again, we're starting to see more and more vehicles that are creeping in to that early Cold War era type. And there's a couple more coming up in this review here. So let's go back and pick the other tank that got to the American line, which this one here. Oops, let's go back to the normal view, sorry. is the T95E1. Okay, this tank never did get out of the prototype stage, and there was about 7 different prototypes. And I believe this one does not have the stabilizer. And in my opinion, I think actually in my opinion, I read it somewhere, this was kind of the USA's trying to create a tank that could compete with the Soviet series. It's interesting, this tank is now in the heavy, what we might consider the heavy line. It follows the M103. However, it does have some beautifully sloped armor here. That sloping of thickness is only 95 mm, but effective thickness is 218. The mantlet is really good. Again, I'm very excited to see this tank in game. But again, it was a prototype. It was never really, they could never really prove that it was better than what they were using. And again, who knows at the time period what they were thinking. But I actually love the sleek lines of this vehicle. And again, it does kind of give you that sense of a Soviet style / crushing American design. Of course, the Americans always with these big cupolas on top. But still very exciting, very beautiful vehicle. Just a very beautiful vehicle. So quickly, let's move on to the Germans. Now, the Germans only get one vehicle, but one that I'm very excited for, and I'll be able to unlock this one very quickly. I just got to spend the stuff. This is what is referred to as the Puma, or the SKVZ 234-2. There were several variants. Typically, this was either a command vehicle, and or in this case, the mod we are getting a scout vehicle. However, there was another one that did mount a PaK 40 with an open turret, and then another one that had a snub-nosed, I believe, a low-velocity 75, which could fire a hollow charge, which actually would pen more than this gun. I guess where I'm a little, again, and it's a game. Let me go back here real quick. Where it ended up is in rank 1, which to me is kind of a disservice. I understand why it goes there. But at the same time, the Puma served throughout all of, the war. It was a fast, light recon vehicle. Armor-wise, you're not getting anything really special here, except for the mantlet. The mantlet is pretty thick. But the rest of it, as you can see, is pretty much, you're going to punch through this pretty easily. But it's fast and it's speedy. And then if you notice in the view, so you have your typical German layout with your good ammo on the sides, down at the bottom, driver. This guy right here, this is another driver. He steered the back wheels. And this is what gave it that just really great turn radius. So it's kind of interesting to see if this guy gets hurt or wounded, is it going to impact steering and all that. And again, I have not taken it out. And I can test drive this one, but I think I'll save that for another day. I'd like to do a full review on it later on. But that's all Germany got. Kind of a little disappointing, but then again, the German tech tree is pretty filled out. Soviets, well, they get probably, in my opinion, the most iconic tank they ever out there. And when I say that, I'm not trying to discredit the T-34, but the T-55, especially in the modern era, is synonymous with the Soviet Union. This vehicle, in fact, and again, I could be wrong, but I think it's had as many produced as T-34s. Maybe I don't know. But it's had a lot produced, and it's been handed out to pretty much, all over the Middle East. Everywhere you can think, this vehicle has been and seen combat. So to me, again, it definitely represents the old Soviet Union really well. And I'm excited. And again, here we have another vehicle that's kind of creeping into that early Cold War era. And there's a few in the game already. But again, this just reiterates how excited I am for War Thunder moving into the future. And here's the X-ray. You're pretty much your standard Soviet layout. Again, this does not get an autoloader. And you can see where the rounds are. does, you know, and all that. And again, it's pretty much, it's, you know, it is a T54. It does get a little better reload time, I think, than the others. But again, and I'm going to turn this off before I switch. But anyway, very exciting to see this vehicle. And I believe it got a ranking of 8.3. Wow, that is pretty beefy, considering, you know, the only 8.3 there with this 8.0 there. And let's move over to Britain real quick and look at them. Only the Mk.5, which is a new tank, and I'll go over that in a second. And then Japan, the Type 74. So I think it's actually, yeah, definitely interesting where it got ranked. And then the other vehicle got added real quick is the Object 268, which I'm not really familiar with. Again, this is probably the end, one of the last or few vehicles. You know, this is built, I believe, on the T10 hull. And one of the last vehicles that is coming into kind of the end of the really heavy monster vehicles. I'll say the NATO countries nixed this pretty quick. You know why Germany has the Leopard 1? Because everybody started feeling heat rounds couldn't be stopped. So just masses and masses and masses of armor was kind of becoming the thing of the past. But the Soviets really drug it out a little longer than the rest. And I think this vehicle kind of represents that a little bit of, you know, just look at the armor thickness on this front side here. This really just represents that old style. And then the gun, and of course the reload rate on it is just atrocious. I can tell you right now, though, this is where you want to shoot this thing. Of course, you don't want to try to take it on from the front, but just even shooting it in the back with them rounds lined up there, and that back plate only being about 54 millimeters effective thickness. It doesn't have a lot of slope. Getting around and flanking this thing, you know, hell, the Puma would even be able to punch through that. So anyway, just interesting, though. Again, this represents to me that really end of the early Cold War Soviet design of still kind of holding on to that, hey, we need heavy assault guns, lots of armor type mentality. Anyway, so that clears up the Soviets. Going to the British, as of course I stated, the Chieftain Mk.5 is here. And again, not a whole lot of difference probably from the three. I don't even think there's not an armor difference. I think there's a little bit of a horsepower difference. Main thing is it got a little beefier horsepower, but pretty much, you know, it's a Chieftain. Not much to say here. Really, that's all there is for that. The next vehicle that got added was this. Now, going back to where I said I thought the T95E1 was a beautiful tank, this thing is just god-awful looking. What the heck is this thing? What is this thing? This thing is, I don't know what. Armor-wise, all right, you know, it's pretty okay there. X-ray, of course, that little, lots of ammo there. Look at that ammo. But the thing that stuck out to me, and I think a couple of you have caught this, is the reload rate. With an ace crew, I believe that gets down to 5 seconds, which this is the same gun on the Chieftain. So that in itself is, let me go back to X-ray, is, yeah, the Royal 105 roller, it's L7A1. Review. Oh, no. I stand corrected. The Chieftain has a 120 ordnance. Wow. So, but still, okay, so then let's go to the 3. I apologize. Not in the Mk.5, Mk. 3. See, I don't know my British tanks very well. Wow, that's got a 120 on it also. Interesting. Well, I apologize to everyone. It shows I do not know my British line very well. There she is there still. So then on the tree, they are kind of in a comparable ranking, but reload time is, like I said, with an ace crew on the Vickers, I think you get down to 5 seconds. So, which is just amazing. And then the other tank they added real quickly was, I believe the Churchill Mark 1. Sorry, let's go off here. Anyway, Again, another Churchill. It is what it is. Typically, lots of armor, really weak gun. Except for you got this, I believe that is a 75 millimeter, 76 millimeter in the sponson here, front sponson here, and then a 2-pounder, which is pretty weak. The 2-pounder does not have a great reputation. So anyway, and that's it. And then Japan gets one. And again, I'm not even going to pretend. Since I screwed up the British line, I'm not even going to pretend to know the Japanese line. Again, because I view most of the Japanese tanks just as fictitious for the most part. Not to say there was prototypes and all that of some. Gaijin does a pretty good job of trying to adhere to history with the prototypes and stuff like that. But it is just what it is. I'm not deep in the Japanese line at all. I've started it. I haven't got very far. But again, the Japanese, that was not their forte. 5-man crew. Of course, you got a little ammo here in the back. Always a great spot to shoot. Try to ammo rack. And other things like that. So, and then moving on, and the final thing is the Italian tree. Again, the Italian, aircraft is not generally my first, and of course I haven't even started. Of course, it's new. I did a little flying, and I'll probably throw in a little footage here and there. Anyway, next we have the Italian aircraft line, and this was the big for the patch. This is a fully fleshed out Italian aircraft tree line, and again, I am not the aircraft aficionado, but it looks pretty good. And from what I'm hearing, the end G.91 R1 is phenomenal. And then you have which one is it here? There's one here that, I believe it's this one. Is this the guy that actually has a 102 millimeter gun in it with 50 rounds? For ground attack. That is very interesting. That I'm almost just about, I think I'm willing to try to punch, but that's rank 4. Grind through right here just to get to play with that. I love my ground attack aircraft. But again, exciting that they pulled out. It used to be in the German tree. And I believe that the Italian aircraft that you have in your German tree, as you can see, they stay. They're not changing. So anyway, looking really good. The patch I'm very excited for, and probably the biggest thing that come in this patch is the ability now for under vehicles that can have it armor. Sorry, I'm going the wrong direction here. Let me just pull up modifications. There is now, you can unlock smoke shells, and not every vehicle has them that historically had it yet. They said they will be adding them over time. And then, of course, there's always vehicles that had... no, let's just go to the Chieftain. I think it's one of them. That have smoke dispensers on the side will have smoke canisters, the ability to use, which is just awesome. I think that is incredible. And right here, it's smoke grenades. You unlock that. And also, they do, when you go into a control point, they do refresh. So anyway, that is probably the most exciting thing to me. The ability to fire smoke now is just incredible on how this will affect gameplay overall. Very exciting. Very exciting. So anyway, that's kind of War Thunder in a nutshell. Again, War Thunder's been keeping pace with an update about every 2 months. In fact, it's almost becoming pretty predictable. So that is really exciting. This game is adding content continually, and I think that is the most important thing in this space, is keep the content coming, keep things new, keep it fresh, change things up. That will generally keep the people in and people interested. So with that, I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is not more War Thunder, which is armored warfare. And as you can see, there is not much news here. There was a server maintenance on the 24th, but it did not bring the patch. So I don't even know at this point. They stopped posting that they were gonna patch last week, so now it's been about 2 weeks. We haven't seen anything or heard anything. There's a couple of dev Q&As, and all I know from this patch is that rumor on the forums is that broke PvE, and you would go in with no teammates. You'd be solo, I guess solo. I have not tried this or experienced it. I pretty much hung my hat on Armored Warfare. Because I like the as I've said in the past, I like the PvP, and it is just dead on North America. I have went over to Europe. Granted, you can find some games there at some times, but I'm not in the mood to start over. There's just no drive or want to start over, so I kind of just threw it to the ground, and I'm kind of just, I don't know. Like I said, I haven't thrown in the towel. I still keep up to date. I still try to stay in the loop of what's going on with it, but it's slow and tedious, and it's just slowly driving away. The content is just not there. And then moving on, we'll throw up a little World of Tanks. For the most part, there's going to be Memorial Day weekend stuff, and I expect to see that across the board for everything, whether it's World of Tanks or World of Warships. You're going to see either one of these come around. Again, I do not play very much World of Tanks. It's not my thing. I'm not going to go on that. The only thing that kind of pops into my mind is this week, and starting at the beginning of, the latter week, there was a little bit of, controversy, drama, I guess, in the World of Tanks community. And it all had to do around a certain YouTuber and some of the negative things he said about wargaming. Now, I really don't care at the end of the day. It's just a game. Who cares about what wargaming did and what some YouTuber did? Again, I mean, honestly, I'm probably on the side of the YouTuber because I think what wargaming did, and then tried to backpedal and cover up this PR mess. And if you don't know, go out and look. You can see the YouTuber. Again, I don't like to mention names. You can see it in the article. But he went on to rant about the latest premium vehicle. Wargaming didn't like it. And if you're not familiar with Wargaming and or even Gaijin, they are Russian companies. And if you don't know a lot about Russia, they don't play by the same rules as, say, North America and some, probably Europe. They're not quite as touchy-feely to people's feelings. However, I feel now Wargaming has gotten big enough that they now have to kind of pay attention a little bit about how they handle the community. And again, really, in the end of the day, I really don't care. You know what? Whatever. I don't really listen to one YouTuber or that. I try to form my opinions based on my own. And, I will take, I do take some of that content and take it for what it is. But at the end of the day, yeah, I felt the way Wargaming handled it was kind of bad. Because, again, he was just really telling the truth. Again, about it being a cash grab. But then again, really, all these tanks, everything these guys do, Gaijin, Wargaming, My.com that handles Armored Warfare, whatever. It is always a cash grab because they are always trying to make money. And if you don't realize that, then you better stop playing. But the part that probably really got me more than anything was the other YouTubers that latched on, and certain ones particularly, that stopped playing a certain game called War Thunder because of this same stunt. And then stated that he was no longer going to be a community commentator because of what this. And again, Wargaming has apologized, of course, but it's kind of hypocritical. And then they all just latched on because of the drama, because it draws views. So here's my hypocritical stance. Watch this so you can listen to me talk about the drama. Okay? I am talking about the drama, and this is the drama, and this is my flash scene. This is my 15 minutes of fame. Anyway, it was really stupid in my mind. It's like, one, they're just games. They're not really important. Apparently, we've run out of real-world problems for people to worry about. Anyway, moving back, the one thing I'm going to throw in a final close here is a show I discovered, and I don't know if anybody's seen it. It's called Combat Dealers. Phenomenal. I watched one episode where the main guy here, Bruce, was restoring a Panther, and then he went out and found a motor, and it's very entertaining. Of course, it's your typical reality TV, but at the end of the day, of course, we all know it's scripted. But it was very interesting. And again, if you're interested in World War II vehicles, I highly recommend that you check it out. It is really cool. And it was definitely, I watched it off of YouTube. I watched episodes off YouTube. I don't know where else to get it, and that's where I found it. So it was really cool. Anyway, that's it for the last week. Again, probably the biggest one being War Thunder's update that dropped today. I was not expecting it. There was no warning. But then again, usually when War Thunder opens up their dev server every now and then and starts posting about the vehicles upcoming, you know it's coming. Like I said, they've gotten really predictable of when their content is coming, and you can kind of bank on it about every 2 months. Which I love. It's it gives you enough time to ingest it, and it's not overwhelming. Even though a full, I shouldn't say that. We got the full Japanese tree, the full British tree, so the full Italian again, I have a lot of work to do in this game, and I'm not going to make it anytime soon. But anyway, this has been Arm Prosciutto for Dry Socks AR. I hope you all enjoyed this little update, and again, probably most of it, you know what, in this day and age, there's no way I can keep up being the first to give this out. All I can do is hopefully maybe you grabbed a tidbit here and there, and continue to watch. Remember to give a thumbs up, thumbs down, subscribe, and remember, always, I hope, Odin welcomes you to Valhalla.